You will never believe what happened with me today. Okay, I apologize and I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I made a big mistake. And basically what happened was I started this and then it stopped. And then when it stopped, I went in to try to start it again and I started it again. But here's the kicker. I started it again on my personal channel instead of on the Academy channel. And, I was thinking, this is the strangest thing. I am a half an hour into my lesson, into class, and nobody is here. Nobody was on the channel. 0 people. And I'm thinking, how is this possible? I know for a fact that some people are going to see this and are going to come in, and I wasn't there. I'm like, there's nobody here. Where is everybody? And well, there you go. I blew it. I made a mistake. Hello, Peter. And as I was just saying, bear with me for 1 second. I've got literally one thing to do before we can start, and I will explain what happened again, because as I was explaining it, people are now starting to come in. Basically what happened was I started the stream by accident because it was telling me that there was a private video. And then when I stopped it and I started it again, okay, and I thought everything was going okay, everything was going fine, but it wasn't, because nobody was in the class today. Nobody was in the lesson. And I realized that I had started my stream on my personal YouTube account and not on the Academy YouTube account. And I didn't realize it until I was half an hour in. Now we're a half an hour late. I was a half an hour into class, and I realized I'm on the wrong account. I'm streaming on the wrong account. It was just the most I'm not having a very good day. I've got I got one quick thing to do and we can get started. I am really very sorry for this. It's just not my day today, I think. Today is just not my day. I forgot to put the answers into the questions that I did, and that didn't work out very well. I made this disastrous mistake with the video, and I'm feeling all kind of flustered and disheveled and discombobulated. How's that for some vocabulary? Yeah, disheveled, discombobulated. It basically means frazzled. There's another one, frazzled. Nervous, I guess, because it's not going very professionally at all. Feel free to say hi in the comments, in the chat, while I'm just 2 more seconds and finishing this up. Okay, so we can get started. Today is going to be a very difficult day, and that's the other. Hello, Alejandro. Hello, Santi. Hello, Peter. I need to get my wits about me, because today is going to be such a difficult day. I was a bit nervous on getting this all prepared and everything like that for you guys. So Peter, Alejandro, Santi, I think probably Barbara's not here, but she may be here later. Okay, so transitioning over to here. Right, okay, so let's do this again. So I've got the first half of this video. The first half hour is already up. It's on my personal page, but I'll do it again because, because nobody's going to find my personal page, and you shouldn't, because, well, it's my personal page. I don't upload anything to my personal page. If you're coming in and you're late, I'm sorry that it started so late. I'm sorry that I made a big mistake, but my idea is we're going to do three things today. One, I'm going to start off at the B2 level, and we're going to do transition words or linking words. Then I'm going to bump up the level significantly, and we're going to do C1, maybe even bordering C2 level. In fact, it is quite C2 level. Did I? Okay, good. Things are just going too crazy. And then thirdly, I'm going to put into the link, into the description, a link where we can meet up in Google Meets. And if anybody wants to talk face to face, we can talk through Google Meets today. I've set up a room in there that we can meet, and we can sort of have a little banter for 15 or 20 minutes. You can ask me about the today or what we did today, or we can just kind of talk about current events and current affairs. And that could be fun. That could be interesting, okay? I put it in the description of the last of the other one, but not of this one. On my other channel, but not on this channel. Okay, so let's get started with our B2 descriptions and B2 linking words. So as I said, we're going to do linking words, and then we're going to do the subjunctive, which is very, very difficult and very tough. Hey, Barbara, thanks for coming. Sorry about the delay. I can explain it again later in another thing, but it's just been an absolute nightmare evening for me. We're going to do the subjunctive, and a lot of people think, well, there is no subjunctive in English. Well, there is the subjunctive in English. We do use it, albeit it's more formal, but we do use it quite commonly in the conditionals, okay? And we'll look at that, okay? Unreal situations and things like that. Hello, Isabel. Yeah, thank you for coming in. And as I mentioned, I do apologize about the start. So B2, transition words. We use transition words, expressions, to talk about a change in thinking, okay? And when I say a change, it doesn't necessarily mean the opposite. It means that I may be giving you more information, I may be giving you examples, I may be trying to clarify something, I may be giving the opposite idea, okay? But we need words that are going to help us signal those changes to the listener or the reader. We can use these expressions, as I have it here, to signal a time relationship. So in what order do the things go in? First, second, third, blah, blah, blah. Give an example, talk about the effects of something or the consequences, cause and effect. Emphasize something, give a conclusion, give more information, contrast ideas. And that's what a lot of people think of when they think of linking words. Okay, so I have to give the opposite ideas. Add similar ideas, state obvious truths, and clarify ideas. Okay, so we're going to look at linkers or transition words that help us do all of these things. And at the B2, C1, and certainly the C2 level, but the B2 and B1 or B2 and C1 level, you need to use these on the exam in your writing in order to show that you can write fluidly and that your thought process is fluid, okay? Obviously, when you're speaking, then a lot of these are also used, but some of them are strictly written, okay? And we'll see how that goes. So here we go. Lots of vocabulary. We're going to have a look at these. A lot of these will be, you'll know these, a lot of these. If you see any that are new, take them down, write them down. This is a good point and a good place to start getting some new vocabulary. And if you have any doubts or questions about any of these words, throw it into the chat, and we can talk specifically about one, or I can give examples of one if you're not sure what it is. So signaling a time relationship, first, then, next, afterwards, and after that. I like these because these are common mistakes for Spanish speakers, okay? We use afterwards if you want to state I'll get to that in a second, Santi. Afterwards, we use to start a sentence when you want to say that the next situation happened after the previous situation. And let me give you an example. So I had some ice cream. Afterwards, I went home. So first I had the ice cream, then I went home. I had ice cream, full stop. Afterwards, I went home. Okay. Now, we can also use after that. I had ice cream, full stop. After that, I went home. However, a lot of Spanish speakers make a mistake because they want to say, I had ice cream, full stop, after I went home. But that's wrong, okay? Because the going home happened later than the ice cream. So if you say, after I went home, then you have to say, okay, what happened after you went home? After I went home, I watched television, for example. I had ice cream, full stop. After I went home, I watched television. Okay, so then you have ice cream, home, television in that order, right? Okay, so if that's not clear, just remember that después is afterwards when you want to start the sentence and continue in the sequence that you're talking about. Okay, so I had ice cream. Afterwards, I went home and then I watched some television. Right? Afterwards, I went home and I watched some television. Okay. Before, subsequently, meanwhile, finally, at last, all of those time relationships. Okay. The biggest star on that, like I said, was the use of after and afterwards. Okay. Hello, Enrique. Signaling an example. For example, as an example, to illustrate, as an illustration. Okay, so we've got the verb and the noun as an illustration. For instance, as a case in point, here, e.g., we use it sort of like, well, no, we use it to give examples, but you don't use it when you're speaking, obviously. Yeah, you don't say, oh, I love ice cream, e.g., chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. No, the e.g., we only use when we're writing, and it's usually in parentheses. And I'm in the way again. You all have to tell me when I'm in the way. Yeah, I have to have one eye on what's going on and one eye on what I'm saying. And I was in the way of meanwhile, finally, and truly. And now I'm going to be behind the logo. I got to tell you, I just can't win today. I just can't win today. I'm going to put myself right in the middle. Now I'm right in the middle, right between these two. So hopefully I can duck one way and I can duck the other way. And I'm not in your way when you're reading these, okay? I apologize. This is insane. I'm having such a crazy day. Okay. Moving on. Let's jump down to Santi. Santi asked me about hence, okay? Hence is the same as therefore and thus. Okay, so I love. I'm trying to come up with an example as quick as I can. It's usually a logical continuance of one thing or another. All right, for example, he robbed the bank, hence he's going to jail. Okay, he robbed the bank, hence he's going to jail. Okay, so that's why. So it continues. The consequence of him robbing the bank was going to jail. Okay, the effect. I hope that answers your question, Santi. So it's a logical continuance of a sequence of events. Yeah. Thus, hence, therefore, these are really more formal, well, not therefore, but hence and thus tend to be a little bit more on the formal side, more logically based. That's why I like this word and I want to get out of the way of it. That's okay. That's why I include here, because a lot of times Spanish speakers, you want to use por eso, right? Por eso, da 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 da. And a lot of people say for that. But for that doesn't exist. Yeah, we don't say for that. Okay, you can say for that reason or for this reason, but not for that. And I correct my students and I usually tell them that's why. Okay, the coronavirus is a very dangerous virus. That's why everybody must stay at home. That's why everybody must stay at home. So I want you, in your brain, I want you to switch out. I want you to switch out por eso and put in that's why. Okay, switch out for that and put in this one. That's why. There you go. I can point to it now. I'm starting to learn a little bit, okay? Except for that logo. It's killing me. I keep hiding behind that logo. All right, moving on. Emphasis, above all, as a matter of fact, in a point of fact, importantly, certainly, indeed, truly. Okay, we're emphasizing. We're emphasizing. And here, a conclusion. I think you know all of these. Possibly in brief might be new. In short, okay, when you're summing up, when you're coming to a conclusion, and there's a collocation for you. Come to a conclusion. Conclusion. Come to a conclusion. Have you come to a conclusion yet? Coming to conclusion, da 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 da. Summing up. All right. I don't expect any questions here. Santi had the one about hence. If anybody has any other questions or wants me to use an example or use one of these in an example, just let me know in the chat. And we are going to go on to our exercise, our first activity. Now I'm in the way over here now. Okay, so now I get to move myself over here, and I won't be in the way at all. Okay, okay. Here we go. Winters in Canada can be very cold. For this reason, or that's why, warm clothing is important. So you've got, I gave you the first answer. All right, well, you've got three examples, or three options to choose from. Tell me your answers. So let's look at number 2. Mercury is a small planet. In fact, it is only slightly larger than our moon. Okay, so we're emphasizing about the fact that Mercury is a small planet, and I'm giving you additional information. In fact, yeah, it's only slightly larger than our moon. Okay, you don't want to use thus because it's not a logical continuance of the fact that Mercury is a small planet, right? You could say Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, thus it's the hottest planet. For example, you could do that because it's a logical continuance, all right? I was sick, so I didn't study for the test. Enrique, Santi, Isabel. Okay, so we've got therefore. Why can't I click? Therefore, I got very low grades. Okay, Isabel, be careful. Stick to the three options that we've got, e.g., therefore, and first. You can see them in the brackets, in the parentheses underneath. Yes, that's why would work, Isabel, but only if you'd get rid of the comma, okay? That's why I got a very low grade would work. Okay, therefore, comma, I got very low grade. All right, keep coming with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep shooting them at me. There are many reasons why Plan A didn't work. Plan B was a much better idea. So we've got in short, for instance. Sorry, I didn't see those words. Okay, that's not a problem, Isabel. So Santi says in short. Enrique is for instance. Anybody else want to have a stab at number 4? Barbara says in short. Yeah, in short. Okay, so why do we know it's in short here? Well, because there are many reasons Plan A didn't work. Reason 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not going to get into all of those reasons, right? Basically, in short, Plan B was just a much better idea. So we're not going to get into those ideas, those reasons. Plan B was a better idea. My friend looked for food. Alejandro says meanwhile. Isabel says meanwhile. Everybody, Santi's meanwhile. Yes, meanwhile. Meanwhile, I made a shelter for the night. Okay. Excellent. Hello, Peter. Number 6, there was no rain for 2 months. What is as a case in point? Okay, so a case in point, remember, is to give an example. Okay? To give an example, case in point. There was no rain for 2 months. Because of this, all the crops died. All the crops died. Okay, so Peter, no EG is to give examples. Okay, so I love all kinds of ice cream. e.g. vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, blah, 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 blah. 7, first I arrived at the hotel, then I checked in, and finally I went to bed. That's right. Good. Finally I went to bed. Some passenger planes are huge. An Airbus A380 can carry more than 800 people. Indeed. Indeed. An Airbus can carry 800 people. That's a lot of people. 800 people. I don't think I knew that. Has anybody ever been or flown on an Airbus A380? I mean, obviously that's going to be for a very long trip if you go to Australia or Thailand or China or something like that. If you have, let me know. That would be cool. I would like to talk to you about it. That'd be awesome. Did you have a good time? No. I had a terrible time. Okay, so Enrique says hence. Anybody else want to take a stab at 9? As a matter of fact, Santi says. Anybody else want to take a stab at 9? Enrique has jumped down to 10. We'll get to 10 in a second, Enrique. Not a problem. Alejandro's jumped down to 10. All right. Number 9, Barbara says, as a matter of fact. Yeah, so as a matter of fact, so really, no, I had a horrible time. I had a terrible time. Okay, Enrique, be careful with hence. Okay, hence, again, is a logical continuance of an argument. Okay, and here we have a question and an answer. So you could say, I had a terrible time. Hence, I came home early. Okay, so it's a logical continuation of two things happening, two events. Patrick overslept this morning. Everybody says as a result, and yeah, as a result, he was late for work. Okay, so these are the easy ones. Now let's move on to some more. This is getting a lot of vocabulary today, and I'm really sorry that we started super late. I just have had such an evening. I'm absolutely going bonkers here. Okay, where can I put myself now so that I'm not in the way? Let's see. I can go right here, I think. In the middle of everybody, right in the middle and underneath is where I'm going to go, right here. Boom. Okay. I don't think I'm in the way, and I'm certainly not in the way of the logo, so everybody can see me, and I can do this. All right, so signaling for more information, signaling a contrast. Hello, Irene. Signal, similar idea. So not only this idea, but another idea, an obvious truth and clarification. Okay, so have a look through these. I'm gonna walk through them and maybe point out a couple of very nice ones that I think you should definitely have in your repertoire and your vocabulary. And if you have any questions about any of these, yeah, put them into the chat box and we can talk about them specifically. So more information. Additionally, also, as well as, I put the as well as in parentheses because you can put just as well at the end of the sentence. Yeah. I love chocolate ice cream, vanilla as well. Yeah. Okay. Besides. Be careful with besides because you have besides, which is here are transition words, but you also have beside without the S at the end, and that is a preposition of location. Yeah, it means next to. Okay, so I have my keys are beside me, next to me. All right, but besides means to add more information. Further and furthermore, in addition, moreover, okay? And yet, so here we have contrasting information, all right? This is not the yet that we use, for example, in the present perfect, all right? I'm lactose intolerant, and yet I love ice cream, okay? So it's kind of like I want to see, yeah? And yet I love ice cream. Could you use an example with besides? Thanks. Okay. Yeah. Should I stick with the ice cream example? Um, Let me think of one. Right. Okay. So, I can't go to the party tonight because I feel a little bit ill. Besides, I have got a lot of work to do. Okay. So I'm giving another excuse why I can't go to the party. Yeah. You could say, additionally, I've got a lot of work to do. Furthermore, I've got a lot of work to do. So it's just another way to add more information to what I was saying, why I couldn't go to the party. Okay, I can't go to the party because I don't feel very well. Besides, I have a lot of work to do. Okay, so I'm adding more information. Does that help, Santi? Give me a thumbs up, and that will be good for me. Correspondingly, no, sorry, I jumped over. Contrast. Although, however, in contrast, nevertheless, nonetheless, these are synonyms, okay? So you can use these interchangeably. Great, Santi. On the other hand, so correspondingly, it corresponds to, equally, just as importantly, likewise, similarly, certainly. So a lot of adverbs here. Of course, naturally, no doubt, obviously, anything. Undoubtedly, that's a good one. Undoubtedly. So you've got the word doubt. So when it comes to word formation, for example, this is great. Yeah, so you've got you've got doubt, doubtedly, undoubtedly. So you've got the prefix, the suffix. You can make a lot of different words with that. Without a doubt. Without a doubt, you can make a lot of words with doubt. Toma. Clarification. In other words, blah, 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 blah. To put it another way, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I'm making it clear. I'm making it crystal clear what I'm trying to say. All right. Namely, a lot of times is used to give examples as well. Okay, so maybe to clarify something, giving examples, names of things. All right, so fingers crossed. If you've taken down the ones that may be new for you, that's great. Now we're going to jump in and do our final exercise on transition words. All right, and let's see what you can put into use. The bullet ant is a small creature. Nonetheless, its bite is extremely painful. So it's very small, but it has a very big bite. So we're doing opposites. Okay, these are contrasting ideas. Yeah, a very small animal with a very big, painful bite. Nonetheless. Polar bears live in the Arctic. Penguins also live in cold regions. And as you know, start firing away in the comments area. I'm in the way again. Okay, I gotta get out of the way. Boom. Now I'm not in the way anymore. Okay. So, polar bears live in the Arctic, and we've got a bunch of similarlies. Similarly. I mean, spelling, similarly. Yep. Okay, good. So, similarly, penguins also live in cold regions. Not the same cold region, Arctic, Antarctic, but cold regions, right? Good. Keep them coming. Our company needs to expand its market. It needs to hire more people. So expand the market, hire more people. These are basically the same things. Yeah, you're expanding your market, you're hiring more people, you're getting more people. Sorry, I should be doing it on this way. Getting more people. So we've got even though, as well. Okay, good. The as wells have it. Yes. As well, it needs to hire more people. Or it needs to hire more people as well. The as well can go at the end. I studied hard for the exam. Good. I got a low grade. Bad. And yet. Awesome. I love it when everybody agrees. That's great. And yet, I got a low grade. Good. That goes back to my ice cream example, yeah? I'm lactose intolerant, and yet I love ice cream. Regular ice cream. Regular exercise is necessary for good health. Yeah, likewise, likewise. Good. Excellent, Enrique. Excellent, Isabel. Likewise. One thing I always say about likewise, yeah, it's also to say like the same to you. So a lot of times with my students, they'll say, "Oh, have a great day," and I answer, "Likewise," or something like that, and they say, "What?" I say, "Likewise." It means same to you. Okay, so likewise. Have a good weekend. Likewise. Okay, so that means same to you. Similar. 6. Einstein was born in Germany. Everybody's got however. However, he became a U.S. citizen in 1940. That's right. It's late and we're tired. It's time for us to go to bed. Irene says, in other words. Santi says, in other words. Isabel says, in other words. I think everybody says, in other words. So, in other words, you're all right. You're all correct, I should say. Well, air tickets are expensive. I've always wanted to visit Fiji. Fiji, of all the places. Fiji. It's a very small island. Okay, so we've got expensive tickets and the desire to go to Fiji. So we're at loggerheads here, right? We're bumping up against that. Good. On the other hand, right? Good. Absolutely. On the other hand. Okay, no, not besides. Okay, remember, besides is to add additional information in the vein of being expensive. So, for example, I can't go to Fiji because tickets are expensive. Besides, I don't have any time. All right, so it's expensive and time. We're adding. Number 9, 1 light year equals 9.46 trillion kilometers. Simply put, it's a long distance. It's a long distance. Okay, so basically you're summarizing. You're clarifying, you're just condensing it. Simply put, it's long distance. We're not going to get into the details of how long it is. And finally, number 10, the assignment is due on Monday. You'll lose marks if it's late. So it's due on Monday. That's the key right there. It's due on Monday. So Alejandro says, of course. Barbara says, of course. Irene says, of course. Santi says, in like manner. That's interesting. Here's the answer. To put it another way, you'll lose marks if it's late. Okay, so the assignment is due. And when it's due, that's when you get your full marks. If it's after the due date, yeah, you start losing marks. You start getting a worse mark. Now, I don't know if that's maybe very American and maybe not so Spanish or UK, but I remember being in a university, for example, if you get it in on time, I studied philosophy and psychology. I wrote a lot of papers. Write a paper, it's due on Monday, it gets to the professor on Monday, you're good. Whatever grade you get, you get. But I remember that if you were 1 day late, then you would lose half a mark or half a grade. So if you got an A, you would get an A minus. Yeah, you got an A on the paper, but because it's late 1 day, you lost a mark because it was late. So you would get an A minus. If you got a B, then you would get a B minus. If you got a B plus, then you would get a B. You understand? So here we're saying, look, it's due on Monday. Or to put it another way, you're going to lose marks if you hand it in on Tuesday. All right? So that was the B2 portion of what I wanted to cover today, which is the linking transition words, okay? We're going to now sort of change gears away from vocabulary, and we're going to go into grammar. Now, the grammar I've chosen today is very, very difficult. I mean, this is C1 all the way, okay? Could be even bordering on C2. So you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. I encourage all of my B2 students, and right now I see Irene and Isabel. I don't see anybody else from my classes. But if you're a B2 student, I encourage you to stay and try to get your head around this, but it is going to be quite difficult. We are going to look at the subjunctive. Dun, dun, dun. That's like the Home Alone. Ah! All right. The subjunctive exists in English, okay? If you've never studied the subjunctive in English, it can be a little bit difficult, and sometimes most people learn the subjunctive basically through reading, okay? Because it sounds right. It sounds right in certain situations, but if you apply the grammar that you know to the sentences that we are going to look at now, it doesn't sound right at all, okay? So let's take a look at the subjunctive and when we use the subjunctive in English, and how you can use the subjunctive in your writing, specifically in your writing, because when you have more formal texts such as articles or essays or letters, formal letters that you have to write, or emails now, you're going to want to use the subjunctive sometimes more than your normal grammar. Okay. So with that said, here we go. Nice and slow. Any questions, put them in the chat box, and I'll try to answer the questions as we go, okay? So we've got the present subjunctive and we've got the past subjunctive, okay, in English. Now we use the subjunctive after certain words, and here you have, boom, up there, certain verbs, and let me get out of the way again. I'm always in the way. No, that's going to put me behind the, you know what? I'm going to go up here. No, I'm not. I'm going to stay down here, right there. Hopefully I'm not behind the logo. So after certain verbs, insist, suggest, request, order, recommend, propose, think, we tend to use the subjunctive. After the adjectives advisable, essential, desirable, preferable, nouns like decision, insistence, demand, requirement, condition. So you can see that a lot of this is sort of like towards the recommend type of speech. Okay, we're recommending something. Okay, obviously insisting on something is just basically a strong recommendation, and a suggestion is sort of like a weak recommendation, right? So we're kind of in that ballpark if you can get your head around that. Yeah, advisable is, well, also a recommendation. It's advisable. It's recommended that you do this. Okay, and on varying degrees of recommendation. So I have below 4 examples right there. Okay, I never remember. Okay, I have 4 examples right here, and I want you to see where, I'm going to grip my pointer, and where the subjunctive is, and it's right here. I insist he be released immediately. Okay, and this, he be, when have you ever seen be not conjugated, he is or he was, in a sentence? I insist he be released immediately. This is the subjunctive after insist, okay? He be released immediately. I insist he be released immediately. All right? So after the word insist, we have the subject and the subjunctive. We suggest she study more often. We suggest, maybe 2 teachers or parents or whatever, she study more often. And again, here, we're not conjugating. It's not she studies more often. It's she study more often. So there's no conjugation, right? And this is not normal. This is the subjunctive. Now, if you notice, I'm using the third person singular because that's where you see the change. If I use the first person singular, so for example, we suggest, or let's say the second person, you, we suggest you study more often. Well, you study, that's the same as always. It's the same, it's the present simple. You study, I study, you study, we study, they study, right? We don't have any conjugation. But it is the subjunctive still, grammatically speaking. Okay, but you just don't see it because it's the same as always. Where you see it is with the third person. Okay, so we suggest she study sounds a bit strange, but that's the subjunctive. All right, and that's why I'm using the third person singular here with I assist he and we suggest she, because you can see it easier. Okay, it's much more impacting. It's a requirement, and we have here the noun requirement. It's a requirement you be authorized to access this site. If you're not authorized, if you haven't got authorization, you're not allowed to have access to this site. So here we have, again, you be. It's a requirement you be authorized to access this site or to have access to this site. And the be here is the subjunctive. And finally, with preferable, an adjective, it's preferable he have his ID on him at all times. So let's say I'm going to send my child to fly by himself. My child is, let's say, 10 years old. Of course, I want him to have his ID with him all the time because if he gets lost, somebody can help him. So it's preferable he have his ID on him at all times. And again, this is the third person, and we don't use the has. Can you use the has? Yes. Okay, you can, but this is more formal speech, and it sounds, to me, for example, it sounds better. It's preferable he has his ID. He have his ID on him at all times. This is correct subjunctive use of the present subjunctive. Okay. That's the very quick explanation. I hope you were taking some notes while I was explaining it. If not, then you can watch this again if it's a bit confusing. All right. So that's the present subjunctive. We're going to do the past subjunctive, and then we'll do some exercises to help you sort of cement the idea and how we use it. Okay. The exercises are going to be quite difficult. Here's the past subjunctive. Now, we have seen the past subjunctive, I'm sure, if you studied the second and third conditionals, then we use the subjunctive a lot and you don't even notice it, okay? The typical one is when you say, when you use were. Yeah, if I were you, I wouldn't do that. So when the subject changes, if I were you to another person, then we use the were, and that's subjunctive. If your father were here, we could start the party, for example. We can't start the party until he gets here because that's not polite. If he were here, then we could start the party. Instead of if your father was here, we could start the party. So that were, and where's my thing? This were, this is the past subjunctive. And I tell my students that in the second conditional, usually, and especially the B2 ones, the C1, you can, I'm in the way again, darn it. I'm going to go here. I'm going to fly a little bit. Is that okay with you? Bloop. Hello, I'm flying. Woo. Okay, so looking down there, I tell my students in the second conditional, when you change the person, one person substituted for another, in your mind. So if I were king, I would blah, 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 blah. If you were my mom, I would be very upset, for example. So if you were my mom, you and my mom, if you switched, right, then we use were for the third person. And that's the subjunctive. Looking down, we imagine the change of the subject, which is, I said, if I were you, if you were the king, if she were a teacher. Okay, so she and teacher. I lost my pointer. Here, teacher. Hello. Come on, pointer. There you are. If she were a teacher, blah, 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 blah. At the B2 level, you don't really have to worry about it if you're not changing the person. For example, if he was rich, he would buy a house. If he was rich, he would buy a house. So we have the he was, but we're not changing him for another person. If he were king, if he was rich. You understand? Can you say if he were rich? Yes, of course, you can use the subjunctive, but it sounds a bit more formal that way. It's not wrong, and you certainly can use it. We also use the subjunctive here with were plus the subject plus the infinitive. And we're starting the sentence. Were we to win the game, we'd be champions. Were I to cook dinner, we'd save a lot of money. And here we can see, and now I can't really move because then my thing comes up and it blocks the sentence. But here, the were and the we, it's not a question. Okay, were we happy? That's a question. Were we to win the game? This is the subjunctive. Were I to cook dinner, if I cooked dinner in the past, we would save a lot of money. I hope that's clear, and nobody has mentioned anything in the chat, so I think that that's clear. If it's not clear, now is the time to ask me a question, but I think that we did it quite slowly. It's not very natural to use. If you're only a B2 student, you're not going to really be using this very often. If you're a C1 student, then you should concentrate on this and you should try to put this into your repertoire, okay? This should be in your vocabulary. You should be able to use this. In your quiver, how's that for a word? Quiver is the bag where people would put their arrows. If they would have a bow and arrow, then the place where you put your arrows is called the quiver. So it's good to have the subjunctive in your English quiver, if you will. Quiver is Q-U-I-V-E-R, and that did not come out at all. That is a very bad font to use. I don't know how that got used. That was horrible. Let's go back. Right, so finally, unreal past. An unreal past, we use this all the time with conditionals. Yeah, if I had studied more, I would have had. Yes, it's very, very difficult. We're going to do some exercises, Barbara and Enrique. We're going to do some exercises, and you'll get to see it in action. You'll get to see how we use it. Again, today is not going to be the only day, and after today, you're going to have the subjunctive in your brain perfectly, okay? Today is like an introduction, and hopefully over time, as we're speaking, you're going to see examples of it, okay? So that's the only thing I can tell you. And now I'm in the way again, and I need to come all the way over. Ugh, there's no way I can be in the way. So I'm going to disappear. And you're going to listen to me while you follow my pointer. Where is my pointer? Okay, so you'll give a listen to me. We're going to talk about unreal past. And as I mentioned, unreal past we use in the second and third conditional quite a lot. It's not real. Okay, it didn't happen. If I had studied, I would have had a better mark, or I would have received a better mark. I didn't study. Okay, so it's unreal. If I had studied, me studying is unreal. We discuss an imaginary situation or an impossible wish. I wish I had studied to make proposals and polite requests. So, an unlikely or impossible condition. If he were to eat meat, which it's not gonna happen because he's a vegetarian. Okay, if he were to eat meat, he'd be sick. And here again, we have the subjunctive, the past subjunctive. This is an impossible condition. He's not going to eat meat. If he were to eat meat, he'd be sick. Okay? And this is second conditional. Second conditional using the subjunctive. We can replace the if clause with the subjunctive. Had you agreed, we'd be fine. If you had agreed, we'd be fine. All right, so you take out the if, and the auxiliary starts the sentence. Had you agreed, we'd be fine. Were you to agree to the terms, you would likely get the job. Yeah, if you agreed to the terms, second conditional, second conditional, you would likely get the job. Were you to agree to the terms, and here we have the use of the subjunctive, were you to agree to the terms, you'd likely get the job. An impossible wish. I wish I weren't trapped at home because of the coronavirus. I wish I weren't here, trapped at home. I wish I wasn't trapped at home. I wish I weren't trapped at home. It's unreal because I am trapped at home. After an imperative, imagine or suppose. So I tell you, imagine I were to do the same thing. You wouldn't like it. Imagine I were to do the same thing. And here is the subjunctive. Imagine I were to do the same thing. I'm telling you to imagine. It's an imperative. Imagine I were to do the same thing. And the same with suppose. Suppose she were to give you bad news. What would you do? And here's the subjunctive. She were. Suppose, and I want you to do this, it's an imperative. Suppose it. Suppose she were to give you bad news. What would you do? Yeah? What would you do? This is very C1, bordering C2. It's very difficult grammar, and it's very difficult to remember to use this grammar. That's the important part, and that's what makes it difficult, because you don't have to start the sentence with the auxiliary. You can use the if clause, which you know very well. Yeah, if you agreed, we'd be fine. If you had agreed, we would be fine. If you agreed to the terms, you'd likely get the job. You can use the if clause. So it's difficult to remember to use these. So try, instead of using the if clause, to use the subjunctive to start your conditionals. All right. Now, here we have an exercise. I want you to complete the exercise, and I can come back now. I'm not going to float this time, though. 1 second. Okay, here I am again. Right, so I want you to complete the sentence with one word. And if you have a contraction, like had not, that's, for me in this case, that's one word. Okay, so hadn't, as we see in the example, imagine we hadn't met all those years ago. Imagine we hadn't met all those years ago. I want you to complete the sentence using just one word. And we'll see how we do on this. Now, on this one, I don't have the answers written down, so you're going to have to bear with me when I tell you the answers, okay? I can't tell you how much I wish the architect here to see the results of his work. So Barbara says be, Santi says were. I'm going to ask you if I do this, can you see well enough? Because I want to write in the answers, and I hadn't written in the answers. Can you see if I write, if this is like this? Or is it too small? Can you see that? A thumbs up or a yes? Okay, great, brilliant. So then I'm going to do it like this, and I'll write in the answers because I'm having a horrible evening, as I've said a bazillion times already. I forgot to write the answers into this one, so I don't have the answers. We're going to have to go through and do this one by one. So A is were. The architect were here. If I wish the architect were here. So with wish, yeah, he's not here. It's impossible for him to be here. I can't tell you how much I wish the architect were here to see the results of his work. All right, so number 2, it's time you able to take full responsibility for your own actions. Letter B. Barbara says were. Santi says be. Peter says B. Enrique, were, and the answer is were. Okay? It's time you were able to take, and that's an expression we use. Ya, it's time. Ya es el momento. Ya es la hora. And I think in Spanish you use the subjunctive too. Ya es la hora que lo hicieses bien, or something like that. I think so. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I speak Spanish, but when it comes to subjunctives and things like that, even my Spanish is not up to par. All right. Letter C. It is the same. Great. Thank you, Barbara. So if it's the same, then that works. That helps. If you can remember that really it's not a whole different conjugation in English, that if we use the present subjunctive, we're using the present tense. If we use the past subjunctive, we're using the past tense. Okay. Letter C. What do we got for letter C? If he so self-righteous, he'd realize he was wrong. Okay, be careful of the definition of self-righteous. What does it mean to be self-righteous? Okay, Bradford, if the subjunctive is more polite, it wouldn't be better without contractions. So, good question, Alejandro. Contractions aren't impolite. Contractions are not impolite. When they talk about not using contractions in formal letters or in formal writing, for example, if you are writing an essay or if you're writing for a journal article or something like that, don't use contractions because contractions are more informal. But it's not about politeness. Okay, so contractions are not impolite. Letter C is weren't. Very good, Isabel, because self-righteous is somebody who thinks that they are righteous. They are like Jesus or like God, okay? And if somebody is self-righteous, they never think they're wrong, yeah? The most self-righteous person right now on the planet is Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will never say that he's wrong. It's just impossible. If he weren't so self-righteous, yeah, he would realize that he was wrong, okay? But he is self-righteous, so. D, imagine, let me copy and paste here. Imagine you completely blind. How would it affect your life? Okay, so here we're going to use were, but it depends, doesn't it? It depends, because if you're speaking to a blind person, then you would say, imagine you weren't completely blind. How would that change your life? Okay, so it depends on the context, but I will say, yes, were, or weren't if you're speaking to a blind person. He looked for all the world as though he looked for all the world, like his complete appearance, as though he so an unreal past. Well, actually, he looked as though. Enrique says was. Alejandro is hedging his bets. Yeah, was or were. Anybody else on E? Santi says have. Okay, so when you say that someone looked for all the world, it's like it's that it's complete. All right, so he completely looked as though he is another way to say it. Yeah, like for all the world. Um, I couldn't understand for the life of me or for the world what is going on. Okay, that just means completely, Isabel. So he looked for all the world as though he, and nobody's got it. The answer is had, as though he had been sleeping in his clothes. He looked entirely, or he completely looked as though or as if he had been sleeping in his clothes. Let's do F. And, I'm not surprised that this is difficult because it's difficult. I mean, these are not easy. This is not easy grammar. This is not easy grammar. This is not easy grammar. It's very difficult grammar. So let's try F. I really wish always in so much of a hurry these days. Santi is weren't. Okay. I really wish. So this is like emphasis. Enriquez wasn't. And I think everybody else is sort of 50-50. You're not sure, right? Okay, so here the answer is weren't. Okay, normally, under normal circumstances, yes, Enrique, you would use I was or I wasn't. Yeah, we learn forever. You learn forever. I was, you were, he was, she was. But in the subjunctive, we use were. Okay, and with wish, we use were. Okay, if you remember, and I hope I don't lose my things here, here, an impossible wish, yeah, an impossible wish would be with were, the subjunctive. And I think I can go back. Yeah, good. I really wish I weren't always in so much of a hurry these days, but I am in a hurry. I'm always in a hurry. So it's an impossible wish. I wish I weren't always in a hurry. Great. Santi, if only she weren't. Isabel says weren't. And I can just copy and paste this because, yes, absolutely, that's correct. If only she weren't so impossibly beautiful. If only. But she is. There's nothing we can do about it, right? The paparazzi would leave her alone if only she weren't so impossibly beautiful, or if she weren't so impossibly famous, right? And H. Barbara says B. Anybody else? It's a tough one, this one. We haven't had this word yet in any of the answers, so I'll give you, that's a clue, right? It's not were, it's not weren't, and it's not had. If that helps. Anybody? Okay. So here we're asking, if you don't mind, Okay, Santi is saying don't, right? If you don't mind, si no te importa, if you don't mind, so I'm asking politely, it's a polite request, I'd rather you didn't talk so loudly. I'd rather you didn't talk so loudly if you don't mind, okay? And this is a negative past, and this is the subjunctive and the negative. I wish you didn't talk so loudly. I'd rather you didn't talk so loudly. You are talking loudly. I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you didn't. Okay. Another example. Can I take the car? So let's say a son to his father. Can I take the car to the beach with my friends tonight? And the father says, I'd rather you didn't. Yeah, because I think you might get into trouble. I'd rather you didn't take the car. Yeah, if you didn't take the car, it would be better. So you can see how it connects to the second conditional. If you didn't take the car, it would be better. I'd rather you didn't take the car. I'd rather you didn't talk so loudly, if you don't mind. If you didn't talk so loudly, it would be better. I hope that clarified it a little bit, okay? Because I got one more thing for you before we go. And this one is a doozy. This one is probably going to frustrate a lot of you, okay? So here it is, the last exercise. And this one is tough, okay? If you want to do them all, we can do them all, but this one is not going to be easy. So we need to rewrite the sentence using the present subjunctive, okay? So if we look, and it sounds strange, these are going to sound very strange. The example, the commanding officer, the CO, gave the order for them to go forward. Okay, the commanding officer is in the army or the navy or in the military, the person who is in charge, gave the order that they go forward. He gave the order that they go forward. That's using the present subjunctive. The present subjunctive is here. They go forward. All right. Now for this one, I'm going to type the correct answer into the comment section, into the chat box so you can see the correct answer instead of writing the answer on the presentation. So I'm going to go back to my full screen here. Okay, now we're back on full screen, and I'm going to type the correct answer into the comment or the chat box. Okay, so see if you can throw your answers at me, and I have got my fingers crossed. Okay, but this is going to be very difficult. All right. So their decision that he should be promoted is a good one. And I'm going to type this in there. Their decision that he be promoted. Santi says their decision he be promoted is a good one. And here is, maybe I'll wait another second to see if others are going to chime in. Or you can jump straight to B. That's cool. I mean, if you want to jump straight to B or C or whatever, have a go. I know that it's a bit difficult to write or to type this in. All right, so, okay. So, A, their decision that he be promoted is a good one. Correct. Way to go, Santi. Enrique, it's essential to be informed of any developments. It's essential You're close. You forgot, Enrique, you forgot the subject. Okay, so it's essential who. It's essential for who to do what. Okay? Remember, this is the subject plus the infinitive. It's essential that we be kept informed of any developments. Okay? Santi. Very good. Very good, Enrique. I'm glad you saw that. I'm glad that you saw the mistake. Okay, so letter C. These are not. Barbara, Isabel, Irene, if you're still there, and Alejandro, I don't know if maybe this is just too tough if you're not quite getting it, or just, throw out a sentence. Yeah, if you make a mistake, then, I'm here to help you understand your mistake. If you want, start down lower. If you're not able to keep up, yeah, start with letter E or letter F, and we'll get to it soon. I think Irene, I think you're trying to say you still are typing? You need to study this. Yeah, okay. The subjunctive is tough, yeah? The UN's insistence that he accept the terms of the ceasefire seemed inflexible. Santi, you're rocking this. All right, Santi is absolutely killing this. Very good, Santi. Well, I know that Santi is going to take the C1 exam, so I know that he has got a very good level, and he's been preparing for this for a long time. Yeah, he's been studying very well. So good job, Santi. Let's try the next one. So whether the referee is right or not, the decision cannot be overturned. Yeah, I'm sorry, Isabel. I know that I told you at the beginning. I'm so glad that you and Irene are sticking around, as well as the others, Enrique and Barbara. I don't know your levels very well, Barbara and Enrique, but I know that Irene and Isabel are some of my B2 students. And they do excellent in the B2, but I know that this is very difficult, and it's quite difficult even for the C1 students to get under their thumb. It's quite tough. But thank you, girls, for sticking around, and thank you, everybody, for sticking around and trying to get your head around the subjunctive in English, yeah? So if anybody tells you from now on, there is no subjunctive in English, yes, there is, okay? Yeah. After this class, what I want to do is I'm going to give you a link, and you're more than welcome to jump in for 15 or 20 minutes and come join me in a video chat on Google Meet, and we can have a quick conversation, and we can talk about sort of these things, and that gives you a chance to practice speaking a little bit as well. Here's letter D. Whether the referee be right or not, the decision cannot be overturned. Santi, another one. Excellent. Whatever she decides, we cannot change her plans. So E is a bit of a trick, yeah, simply because There is no change. There is no change, okay? It stays. Whatever be decided, yeah, you could say whatever be decided, but whatever she decides, we cannot change our plans. And the last one. Okay, she insisted that I didn't talk to anyone else about what I saw. That was a tricky one. Yeah, that was a tough one. The last one with the negative. She insisted not to talk to anyone else about what I saw. Okay, again, Enrique, I don't know if that was you before that forgot the subject. Yeah, it was. So you did it again. She insisted who? Who? She insisted that I don't talk to anyone else about what I saw. No. Enrique, you're the closest one. You just got to put in the she insisted that who not talk to anyone. No, yeah, again. So here's the answer. She insisted that I not talk to anyone else about what I saw. She insisted that I not talk to anyone else. Okay, and look that the not and the talk are next to each other. We don't put the not before the I, which would be more Spanish. That's all I got for you. It was a very, very difficult lesson, and I don't expect you all to have perfect to have understood this perfectly. But as I said and as I mentioned, what I want to do is I want to invite you to chat with me. If you give me a second, I can come up here with here. We're going to put this in here like this, and I'm going to make this very, very big. So here I've got a Google Meet room that I have joined, that I'm in right now, and that you're more than welcome to come and join me in, and we can talk and introduce ourselves or just kind of shoot the shit. If you're in a hurry, because I know this took a lot longer because I started late because I accidentally entered into the wrong, it doesn't matter. I have had a horrible evening when it comes to this. Enrique, have a nice weekend. Come into Google Meet if you want to say hello. Otherwise, everybody have a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Okay? So please, you can copy this, write it down, or whatever. If you haven't had time, I apologize, and I will, you can check it out in the video when it comes up. Have a good weekend, and thank you for sticking around. Okay, bye.